We'll call to order the work session for the Grant County Commission of November 6, 2012. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance and the salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico as the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
On our agenda today, we have some updates and reports and presentations. The first presentation today will be by the Grant County Bicycle Advocacy Group. Are you ready? Okay, come on up, state your name for the record, please.
Good morning, everyone.
What? You're a bicycle advocate?
My name is Michelle Giese. I work for the New Mexico Department of Health. Am I turned on?
Is it on?
Hello? Oh, there we go.
And you'll have to speak closer.
Okay. My name is Michelle Giese. I work for the New Mexico Department of Health, and I'm here on behalf of the Grant County Bicycle Advocacy Group. We would like to thank you for your time to meet with us today, and I'd like to introduce Rebecca Summer. Rebecca? And Marguerite Bellringer here. And Jamie Thompson's going to be a little late, but hopefully he'll pop in. We would also like to thank your staff for installing bicycle safety signage in the form of sharrows on several county roads most frequented by bicyclists. Installing sharrows on the road surface is one of the best ways to alert motorists to expect bicyclists on roads too narrow for bicycle lanes and increase their safety. Unlike bicycle lanes, sharrows do not designate a particular part of the roadway for exclusive use of bicycles. Sorry, I'm so but rather alert motorists to share the road with bicyclists. I have a couple handouts for you. The first one is a New Mexico statute for bicyclists that states that every person riding a bicycle upon a roadway shall be granted all of the rights and shall be subject to all of the duties applicable to the driver of a vehicle. So, where is that handout? We've got it. That one. Thank you. I just did. Yeah. Do you want to pass that around to Ruben? Sure. The second handout outlines a 2011 study that was conducted in Los Angeles demonstrating the effectiveness of sharrows in alerting motorists regarding the presence of bicyclists on the road and to give them a little extra space when they're passing them. Our group is interested in working with the county to possibly install more sharrows, particularly on the segments of county roads near city limits. Particularly on county roads near city limits.
County roads inside the city limits?
No, near.
Near,
That
okay.
feed into the city limits.
Sir? Have to.
Where is he?
You won't ever laugh. We can sort of sitting in a lead.
I'm going to miss that.
7:45. Is that John on the front of that magazine?
That is.
So all county roads, they're all important this bicycle safe passage throughout Thompson City. So these are county roads that we're most interested in, just on the segments that we're going to work with the city to have sheriff installed on the street.
Michelle, have you met with the city yet? Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
This is Swan Street, one of them. This is Little Mall, that's another one. 90, of course. Ridge Road, of course, 180, and City South Road, Highway 15. For example, some of the tributaries
shocked, I guess, that the bypass road isn't on there. Either bypass.
The bypass road 32nd?
No, I'm talking about the truck bypass in the south.
That's in the county also?
No, you were on it.
There it is. That is definitely part of it, but we can only work on the center part first. That is definitely in the writings that we cut off in the last 10 years.
Okay.
So that again is key, particularly if you happen to live near it. And want it by...
Well, loops are so important. I mean, riding to a dead end, nobody wants to do that. Right.
Jamie just walked in. Hi, Jamie.
One of the things with sheriffs is that if the speed is over 25 miles an hour, they're not allowed. And so the key thing is that one of the reasons that we're prioritizing the roads that come from the county to the city is that those are these transition areas, and the transition areas are always the highest risk because motorists don't know what's going on. So we're identifying the high-risk areas first. So the bypass road is probably a really good place to put sheriffs. And eventually we probably want to do that. But the first priority are these areas that are transitional. So where there's a bike lane and it disappears, that's a really good place for sheriffs. And you see them like on Highway 1 in that in the triangle of 180 and 90, where we lose the bike lane. That's a place where it informs the motorist and the cyclist of where they ought to be. Oh, yeah, and the other part of this, Sarah, is part of a fairly comprehensive plan to improve safety. The biggest variable that determines how safe it is for particularly kids, all this stuff that we're doing isn't really designed for the light road crowd. We know how to ride in traffic. That's not a big deal, but kids are naive to traffic laws. And so what we are trying to do is improve overall safety. So we put Sharrows as a way for motorists to be aware. It may not be where cyclists ride necessarily, but it's a place where motorists are reminded that cyclists could be on the road. The other part of that is what are the in the same way that the transition areas are the places that we have to focus our attention first, the other thing that we have to focus on is just increasing the number of people who are riding. That's the most important variable of safety for children and families. So how do we do that? One is the best approach, of course, is a market mechanism where we increase the price of gas. We don't have any capacity to affect that. So another way of affecting those behaviors, if we're really concerned about families and children riding their bikes, is we create incentives for adults to ride their bikes as well, or to walk. We don't care. And so what we've done is we have we've tried to identify organizations that have the most employees, and we talk to them about creating incentives for their employees to walk or ride their bikes. Because really, the problem is congestion near schools. That's our biggest issue. And this is a problem that you have in the county, there in Santa Clara, and we have here in the county, universal problem. So how do we reduce the congestion? And one way to do that without affecting the price of gas is by creating these incentive programs. And so one of the things that we did is we provided, and this is just a draft, suggestion on how to do that with employees. We'd love the county to interact with us or help us in trying to create some sort of employee incentive program.
Well, as you guys all know, John's into bicycling, so I'm sure he'll be all in on this.
And Randy wants to ride at least 6 miles to work every day, for sure.
I know John and Kristen have talked before, but if we ever have questions on what do you mean sorrow, share the road, or a question on what it looks like, or because there's already some in the town, and if the town, any questions that would you want to increase your understanding, particularly for children's safety, call us. Including you,
And I'd like to mention that the BAG group has worked very, very hard to ensure the safety of bicycle riders, especially children. I think that's something that we really, really need to keep in mind. Earl has worked very closely with them in making the Sharrows, so I compliment this group on your tenacity and keep at it, and I think that we're looking at a future with more bicycle riders, so I think that we need to prepare for that.
Well, and just like you said, the safety of the kids is definitely number one.
Yes. Anthony?
Mr. Chairman, I haven't been a part of it. I know there's been with Earl, but we're doing right now we're doing right-of-way research and stuff on our roadways, and because at some point we want to be able to fully design our roadways and include bike lanes and paths. But what I need is a little bit more knowledge of being able to put stuff on Grant County roadways right now, because a lot of our roadways were bladed in, had some chip seal put on them, and now have traffic that exceed 45 miles an hour. So we certainly don't want to get into a point where we're placing things that are actually going to increase a dangerous situation instead of actually making it safer, because the design of our roadways really haven't been taking a good look at, and so that's what we're doing right now, trying to redesign what we've got. And we'll take Rosedale Road, for instance. We know that we've got some bad design in there. We certainly don't want to make it even more dangerous for bicycle riders. So I would certainly like to work with you guys and try and get specifics on where these things are supposed to be located, how it's going to affect the traffic, whether it's a certain distance from a corner. If we're redesigning a corner, we want to certainly make sure that we are aware of what needs to be done for the bicycles at the same time, because otherwise we could actually make it more dangerous instead of making it better.
Yeah, we see this in the town on Alabama Street, where we tried the town tried to make it safer by doing a road diet, and all really good intentions. But what it did is it created a situation that is a lot more dangerous if we put ourselves in the position of, and that's what we have to do with all our designs, is we have to say, how would a mother with her kids, with 3 or 4 kids of various ages, approach this design? And when we put ourselves in that position, then we can really say to ourselves, this is the best design or it's not the best design. And when you're making these decisions, we're a great resource for, if you're wondering if this will make things worse or not. I would love to talk to you about specific things. But yeah, that's a really good point, because we've seen it in the town. Really good intentions that have created things that are a little bit more dangerous. And so we want to make sure that we address those before the painting goes on or before the improvement goes on, so that it saves you money, so you don't have to go back and fix it later on. Yeah, that's awesome. We'd love to work with you.
I don't know if you know, Jamie, is there guidelines that the state has adopted? I know the federal guidelines in our conversations and stuff, there's those federal, but has the state adopted certain guidelines? And if not, that might be something we look at through the 60-day session, is trying to get the state so that everybody knows these are the guidelines. I mean, because in meeting with you guys, there's those federal guidelines, and that's how we bought that new Sharrow, because the first one we had was for a bike lane, not a shared lane. But
but I don't know that the state has adopted something. And in reading this proposal, this shared lane study that you gave us, it talks about California Department of Transportation adopting that as a traffic control device, and I don't know if that might be something that would be worthwhile to try and get something through legislature, so like all the communities are doing it the same. Because as we talked, we found out Las Cruces has some that are the old design, and there's not really a set of guidelines adopted by the state that I know of.
And I think the last session, there were several bills that addressed different parts of that. And so I think having, looking at the federal guidelines and then balancing it with, again, this perspective of what would a mom do with that is not familiar with cycling law, and she just wants to do what's safest for her children. Oftentimes, what she'll have her kids do is actually not safe. One of the things that we did is we had an officer come and did a presentation on where kids get hit, where cyclists get hit. And Grant County, the Sheriff's Department was well represented, I believe. It was really impressive. But I think balancing the federal regulations with where the risk places are, these transition areas, I think makes the best design. But that's a really good point. The state regulations are falling behind, and we need to really update those.
I mentioned Santa Fe.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Do you want to?
Okay. We have a bicycle transportation as well as pedestrian transportation plan in Santa Fe right now, and we could use that as our template. It would be it'd be a new step in order to moving towards safety for children. So that is available. And here's one more. This is an ordinance that it would be good for perhaps the county attorney to look at to see if this would be appropriate or can be used. And it's the Dallas City Council is poised to approve the new bicycle passing ordinance that outlines the interaction between drivers and bicyclists. And considering that the majority of us in this room are actually drivers, it would be good for all of us to look at this possibility of making it safer. So it's just a simple ordinance, and it can be modified to fit Grant County as you see appropriate. So at least you'll have this in your bag of information for hopefully near future consideration. And as you know, and the county manager knows how to get in touch of the Grant County Bicycle Advocacy Group. So
I think the sheriff had something to say.
And Mr. Chairman, I also want to reiterate on that. The deputies of the patrol officers see all these bicycles now, and we are happy to see that this is in the works, that we're going to have bike lanes and that, because they do encounter families that are riding bikes where the kids are swaying into the lanes and stuff like that. And if we can make this happen and put training for them to show them that these bike lanes are specifically for that, I mean, it'll protect the children and the adults as well, because these bike lanes are important for them to be able to utilize these and stay out of the traffic lane. There's some people that observe the bicyclists, and there's some that don't care for bicyclists, and that's what we're there to help them get a little bit safer in the way they operate their bicycles. But I want to commend them and thank them for trying to help us out on that, because we do get calls on bicyclists being in the middle of the road and stuff like that, but they do have rights to be on certain roads and stuff like that. But I think this will be a big help for us, and thank you for what you're doing.
And I think it would be a good idea with Sheriff Villanueva in your dialogue along with Anthony.
And Marguerite has a little present to pass around to you guys.
That concludes your comments? Okay, yeah, we're done. I'd just like to say that we've been working with the county quite a bit. The Sheriff's Department in multiple capacities has been an absolute pleasure to work with. The Rural Development Manager, Earl Moore, has been great.
I just really it's been just wonderful working with the county. We've been pleasantly surprised by all our interactions, and I really appreciate it. I can't tell you how nice it's been dealing with the entire county.
It's been wonderful working with all of you.
My name is Marguerite. I just had one thing to add. I understand that there was some objections to putting the sharrows on county roads because it was thought that that would encourage bicyclists to ride in the road. And I would like to just have you reference the state code that bicyclists are actually allowed to ride on the road. And in some places, we're allowed to ride two abreast. And that comes from the state. So I'm not sure where that came from, the objections to the sharrows, but we are following state code. Okay? And I would also like to add that the safer Grant County becomes for cyclists, the more that tour groups and professional cycling teams will come here to train. And they come at odd times of the year, like January and February, when the hotel rooms really aren't being filled up. And I think it's a boon to our community to have the teams come here to train. And last week there was a cycling team here. They started in Tucson, and they were doing the Tour of the Gila ride. And 2 nights, there were 15 cyclists plus support, and they stayed at the Murray Hotel. So I think the safer we become, we have an economic benefit also. So, thank you.
Thank you. I don't think there's one big enough.
Are we getting a goodie? Good job, good presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we can wear these in front of you.
New bike I'm buying.
Thank you, Michelle, Rebecca, and Marguerite. Good presentation.
Thank you very, very much. We appreciate it. Okay, the next item on the agenda is Literacy Link. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Good morning to you all. I'm very honored to be here today, and my name is Wendy Wagner. I'm the new program coordinator for Literacy Link Leamos, and about to celebrate my 1-year anniversary of living in this fine county. I moved here from Montana for the pleasant weather, which I could possibly give you all credit for. But with that, I also found that Grant County is a wonderful place to live. So as a newcomer, I'd like to thank you all for having such a great place that we can now call home. I'm here today to talk to you about a program that Literacy Link is involved with the detention center. It started in May of 2011. Ed Greenberg was walking by the jail, and he had a concern that the inmates inside were not doing anything to become educated and to have some personal growth and hopefully not return to the jail, and how could they move forward with their lives. He then met with former jail administrator Mike and Joe Andazola, who was at the time the jail's education coordinator, and the idea of teaching inmates was met with great enthusiasm. Ed came to Literacy Link and met with Michelle, my predecessor, to further coordinate programs, and the rest is the history that is happening today. A new page has turned in that history with a new detention center, and our current program started in September. Literacy Link Leamos has 5 instructors that go into the jail, and they educate inmates 4 days per week. They have served well over 30 individuals so far, and the classes are as follows. On Monday, Sandra Hicks, who's here, teaches a parenting class and keeps inmates connected with their children. She's got some great things going. They write stories and cards and write back and forth so that they can further their influence on their kids by becoming a better role model and staying connected with them. She has one class. On Tuesdays with Thelma Sordo, Get That Job and Keep It, where she's helping the inmates to work on their resumes, applications, and interviewing skills, which is very much needed. She has 2 classes going on Tuesdays. On Wednesday, pre-GED math with Robert Zwick, who's a wonderful educator. He's a former engineer and helping one thing that many people have a fear of, and that is math. Myself, I understand that. He's doing a great job. He has 1 class on Wednesdays. And on Thursdays, Ed Greenberg and Elizabeth Selva are teaching life skills, and through that, they're teaching practical applications to what the inmates can do when they come out. For instance, I've heard Ed talk about painting a room, what is the square footage, and helping with the math in that. And they have met with several inmates, and the biggest concern with them is their fear of math. And I think they're helping to alleviate some of that. They and Bob are to meet some of those challenges and hopefully feel some empowerment and accomplishments when they are able to do those math problems. And it's addressed in a variety of skill-based classes and practical applications in 2 of their classes that they hold on Thursdays. Together, these volunteers provide over 20 hours of class time each week. That doesn't include all their preparation time. And Literacy Link Leamos provides materials for the classes to use. We are also going to be having a DVD program where the inmates can read to their children. We record it and send the child a DVD and the book that their parent has read, so they get the book and their parent reading to them. And we'll put them in different attire other than those wonderful orange suits that they wear. At this time, there are 4 women participating in the programs. The women's programs are a bit of a different animal because they have a lot of turnover. So we're working on a better way to schedule them so that they can make the best use of that time when they're there and get as much education from us as possible. Since 2011, when this started, 2 individuals, because of the tutoring that they've had, have gone on to get their GED after their release from jail. So we're seeing definitely some good progress. That's, as you know, the percentages aren't really high on success, and so that's a really good thing. Future plans, the library has given the detention center some computers at a really reduced price, and they can be used in a variety of ways. As you all know, it's hard to get by these days without computer skills, so this will help the inmates to learn those skills. The 2014 GED test is now going to be all on computer, so they're going to need to have typing skills. They can't do it with a pencil anymore. And this will also help them with typing and resume skills. The only concern that we have with that is right now there's only conference tables to work on. So it would help to have some workstations that inmates could work individually at computers at. And one of the concerns we've come up against is that there's a camera there's a great room that the teachers utilize. It's wonderful to be able to have inmates come in 12 at a time and have these classes, but there's a camera in that room that only covers 1/3 of the room. So if there is an unfortunate situation, it may or may not be seen because of the technology that currently exists in there. So that's a big safety concern for us. And the teachers are having to use a lot of time to maneuver the tables to make sure that they're on that camera in case an incident does occur. So that is a bit troublesome. There are plans for a library in the detention center, hopefully to continue with some reference materials. Several hundred books have already been donated, and in the Literacy Link office, we get more every week, and they're specifically for the detention center, so there's a lot of support for this program. We'll have dictionaries provided by Literacy Link, as well as other reference materials. The ultimate goal in all this is to provide inmates with solid skills when they leave, hopefully not to return. We hope to make them assets to the community rather than a burden on the community. And education, I think, is a big piece of that, helping them get their GED, helping them get a job, and definitely become a part of this great community that they live in. Hopefully also to heal themselves and their families, and of course to have them take ownership of the choices that they've made. That's a big part of this. We're not just coming in and giving them all this information and hoping it all turns out good. We are actually coaching them and taking ownership of what they have done and how to move past that and move on to a brighter future, not just for themselves, but for the community and for their families and for their victims as well. I have to tell you, I'm constantly impressed by all sorts of folks in this community that come together. This is a really special place to live. Gilbert and Joe have just been phenomenal. I've never experienced anything like this before, especially from two fellows that work at a detention center. They really have this vision of the future and helping the folks that are incarcerated to, I kind of joke about them maybe working themselves out of a job, which would be a good thing, but giving these people skills and being supportive and seeing that vision of not having them keep coming through this revolving door, but to go out into the community and be positive. There are other organizations that are partnering with this concept as well, and they're very excited about it. There are also other detention centers that are looking at this as a model, and hopefully someday this could be a regional aspect as well. And everyone involved in this has that vision of the bigger picture, and I have to give a lot of credit, not just to our tutors, but also to Joe and Gilbert as well. The link between being incarcerated and functioning in the outside world happens with the help of these very passionate individuals. There are, like I said, a lot of these organizations that are coming together, and Mr. Andazola has been working on this re-entry program, which is a big piece of this, and I would like him to share a bit of that with you. And I thank you for letting me speak with you today with such a positive story.
Thank you very much.
I'm very pleased with this program, and I think if we keep the goals in mind, it's a very, very important part of the rehabilitation of individuals that are incarcerated.
I agree. It's good for everyone all around, so thank you for letting us.
Thank you.
Can the people with you stand up and speak?
Yes, absolutely.
Familiarize the
All the
faces with
tutors.
this.
I also want to mention Caroline Baldwin, who is here. She's the founder of Literacy Link and our wonderful grant writer, and she orders books and does a lot for the organization, so we couldn't do a lot of what we do without her.
She does a lot. Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you. Yes, please identify yourselves.
Would you like me to identify?
Please.
Okay. We have Robert Swick. He is our math teacher. Ed Greenberg, the gentleman who took a walk that day and started all this. We have Sandra Hicks, who does the parenting and life skills class, and Beth Selva, who works with Ed to do the life skills class as well with those practical applications, and Caroline in the back there. And you know Joe and Gilbert, I'm sure. Thank you.
Joe?
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. I think it's a wonderful program that's been going on at the detention center. We're looking at future plans to expand it. Also, we've discussed the reentry project. One thing that I want to say is that Literacy Links has been very wonderful, and all the people that work with us are very wonderful. It's a wonderful organization that not only works within the detention center, but within the community, handing out books and exposing all the community to reading. The one thing that I do want to point out, though, that this organization and everybody that goes into the jail in this programming is done on a volunteer basis. It's done on their free time, and they put a lot of effort and time into this. In speaking with Ed, as we were talking in the old jail, as far as plans for the new jail, we talked about when an inmate releases from the detention facility, sometimes they have no resources available to them. So we started a reentry project which will take the needs of the inmate while they're incarcerated and build on those needs and get them set up for the release date, where they need a job, housing, schooling, technical. We've been We've been having various meetings with different organizations. The community has been wonderful in working with us, and there's a lot of people that want to work with us and help these inmates, because after all, they're truly not inmates. While they're incarcerated with us, they're inmates, but as a whole, they're just part of this community, and sooner or later, they come back to the community, and they're just our neighbors, our friends, our relatives. We see them at the stores, we see them on the streets. If we could help them, give them their life skills that they need to help cope and maybe overcome some of their struggles, we can help them become active and positive community members. I think it's very wonderful. I mean, me and Gilbert have the hard job of trying to devote as much time to the program as we can, but then there's also that other aspect of detention where we have to consider the safety and security of the community, our staff, our inmates, and our volunteers. We do have a list of things we want to do with our programs. We also have a list of security issues. Part of the security issues is that program room. That camera only covers a small portion of that room. While working with Sierra Detention, who installed the cameras on some of our warranty issues, we had them look at the room. They went up to the camera. I had them check to make sure the wiring was in place. That way we could change that camera out. So within a week or two, they should give us a quote as to how much it would cost to install another camera that would either cover the whole room or have a camera installed such as in the rec yard and the outer perimeters of the facility, which will not only do a 180 but will zoom in and out, which I think will be what we were looking for that program room. So we will address that issue. When the volunteers do come in, they do get a radio and a panic button, to which if there's any problems, they press that button and staff will be there immediately to handle any situations. I will tell you that the inmates are very positive about this. It gives them a sense of pride, it gives them a sense of hope, and I think it's just working to change the whole aspect of it. One of the exciting things is this reentry project. We've been having a meeting every week, coordinating, seeing where to go from there. We're building this from the bottom up to get like a total community approach, to get like a circle of people around that inmate that will help them, that once they leave the facility, they have different people to go to for different needs. I know that we're working with the Community Health Agency, who actually is looking for legislative financing to help maybe get a position for that reentry project. I know that Ed and Beth have been instrumental in help bringing together these meetings with these different agencies. We've had meetings with Workforce Solutions, who's trying to help the inmates get jobs once they come out into community, helping different businesses see the better aspect of giving these people a second chance. I mean, I know some of them will fail, but we can never give up. If we could save 2 or 3 inmates and change their attitudes, change their positiveness. With the parenting class, I think it helps, because these inmates weren't born like this. I think it starts at home with the families, and if we could build on the family structure and keep it going, and I think this community could really take care of its own and change the way the detention center is.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'd like to commend these volunteers that go into that facility. It does make an impact, and because we deal with these individuals on a daily basis pretty much, that we take and turn over to the detention center. But if they can help us in that sense, thank you for what you do, and hopefully it does make our community a little bit better, where these guys or women do not want to go back to the facility. They have something to look forward to when they get out. So I do want to thank them, because they do really good work. And also Joseph and Gilbert. I mean, to make this program work, it's a big accomplishment.
Joseph, on some of those items that are needed, like the workstations, can you get us costs of what it would take to install those?
Yes.
But you're doing okay with textbooks and that kind of thing, right?
Yes, and then also we're working with our Commissary Cummings Summit. Once we get everything online with them, there might actually be some income coming in, generating from them, that can be used for the inmates.
Good. Well, great job, Joseph. Thank you. And thanks all of you for a great job.
Okay, moving on, we'll go ahead and review the November 8th regular meeting agenda.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners,
John, I think on the regular meeting agenda, we're going to start with that public hearing, but then immediately following the approval of that ordinance, I would like to recess to attend the Veterans Day ceremony at Jose Barrios Elementary School.
Yeah, and when Randy and I were building the agenda, we didn't know if you wanted to put it in as an item, or just as you get to that point, you could go ahead and recess wherever we're at in the agenda, and then by the Open Meetings Act, all you have to do is state when and where you'll reconvene. And so my thinking was, just because we don't know how long that veterans presentation will take, is the commission would recess here, and then when you got to Jose Barrios, you would reconvene. You wouldn't do business, but you would reconvene. And then when that presentation ended, you would recess there and then reconvene back over here again. So it would be easier, instead of trying to say, you'll recess at 9:15 and reconvene at 10 o'clock here in the Grant County Chambers, and then you're not back by 10. You violated the Open Meetings Act. So if we just say you're going to recess and reconvene at 9:30 at Jose Barrios for that presentation, and then you reconvene, and then there you recess and reconvene within 15 minutes back over here, it'll be easier to stay within the Open Meetings Act.
Can we at least put on there that we're going to attend that? Because otherwise people will be sitting in the audience not knowing where we are.
Yeah. No, we'll add that.
I just hate for somebody to walk in 15 minutes late and think they missed the whole meeting.
Mary Alice comes in and we're gone. She's going to
Mary Alice will be here. Mary Alice gets here before we do someday.
And I would like to invite the other electeds and to ride with us. We're going to try to get transportation so we can be quick to get over there and do the ceremony and come back.
What we might do then is, up at the top, before call to order, we can put a note on the agenda that says the commission will recess at 9:15, so that it's not at a specific spot, so that if the ordinance goes faster, you could get through public input, and then head over there if that be the
Problem
case.
is we have no control over how long public
No, I
input
understand.
is.
I understand. We'll add it on.
Okay. Go ahead and you can finish the rest of the agenda now.
Okay. Well, we'll start with the public hearing. The public hearing is on the ordinance for the bonds, the revenue bonds for the hospital. At a previous meeting, the commission did the notice of intent resolution, where the ordinance has been on file at the clerk's office for public viewing. And so then what you'll have on Thursday's meeting is a public hearing to hear any comments on that ordinance, and it'll come in front of the commission for final approval at that point in time. What that's for is to issue an amount not to exceed $10 million for the construction at either regional medical center. The change from when the ordinance was originally put in place to now on that is that they've looked at, instead of going out into the market and throwing it out onto the bond market, they're looking at doing some private placement, which it'll still be a competitive bid process. So what they'll do is put out the criteria that they're looking for, and then individual banks or different could come in and bid on the bonds, and then they'll take a look at it and they'll take the most advantageous offer and then do a private placement with that group. So it'll still be a competitive process. It just won't be thrown out into the market for random bidding.
So it potentially could go out all as one tranche, or it could go out in several different tranches?
Yes, but it just can't exceed $10 million total for this year to be bank qualified, and by the ordinance. The ordinance is capped at a $10 million, not to exceed amount. So yes, it could be 2-3 different private placements if that be the case. And so that's what they're looking at doing with that. That's been the major change in the ordinance since we first put it in front of the commission. The original was to just throw it out on the market and let people bid at random. And this now will be a private placement bidding coming back, and we'll select the most advantageous. And then we'll add, after that, we'll add the recess to go to the veterans. Then you come back, public input minutes, and then in the financials, the expenditure report. You have it in your book. It's for $1,053,312.71. The major expenditures are, there was a sole community provider payment of $283,253.98. And then there was capital outlay of $152,475, and that capital outlay was for the Stone Garden funding that the sheriff has. I believe it was the Tahoes, the purchase of 5 Chevy Tahoes for the Stone Garden grant. So those have been purchased, they've been received, and we're working on getting the license plates currently for them through the state. We have to go to Santa Fe to get those, or send it to Santa Fe. We can't do business with the local DMV for government plates.
John, I have a question about Ingenue Economic Advisors, $16,450.
Yes, that's the continued piece, part of the grant that Mr. Gutierrez got. He's working with Angelou to do some site selection that in their proposal, they identified several sites, and now they're doing that kind of modeling of those sites.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, they're doing site feasibility studies where they go to try and find what would be the best suited site for, right now, actually for an industrial park. They incorporate whether there's rail access, access to the airport and to the close to the interstate. They have selected a few sites, one near the airport, right across the road from the airport. There's also a site near the town of Hurley, right across the road, and then adjacent to the town of Hurley, because of some of the only places you can access rail. What they'll do is actually select, those are 3 sites they selected that are best sites. We went through approximately about 12 different sites around the county. They've identified those sites as the best sites. Now they're going through feasibility studies, marketing, how you could market your area. There'll be preliminary engineering, some other things, so we can get those things ready for actually more funding, so we can try and get those things funded. That's correct.
That's good to hear.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on.
On to new business. The first item is a certificate of recognition to Debbie Rogers as serving as the 2012 President of the Realtors Association of Mexico. We've been asked if the commission would give her recognition. That's a pretty high honor to be selected from this area to be the president over that association that governs all of New Mexico. And so that's what that is for, just to recognize them. The next item is an appointment of one new member and a reappointment of Anthony Gutierrez and Karen Smith to the Food Policy Council. And the new member is Azima Lila Forrest. Azima Lila Forrest. And so she'll be the new member, and then Anthony and Carolyn Smith will be appointed back on. And Anthony was originally appointed through the resolution that set up the Food Policy Council. And we've been working with that group. Commissioner Miller and I have been talking, and we talked about last time about their changes to their bylaws. We're still looking at that before we bring them in front of the commission to change some of the makeup of the group. The next item under contracts and agreement is for a professional service agreement with Felix Ortega for services juvenile probation office. It's a decrease by $10,000. This is part of that money that the commission has given the GPPO for doing the surveillance program of the juveniles with the ankle bracelets. And so it's moving some money away from Mr. Ortega into be used by some others in that department. The next 2 agreements with Luis Alvarado and Daniel Ziegler. That money will be split between those 2 to pick up the surveillance so that money can be best utilized. And so those 3 contracts are on there together, 1 decrease and 2 increases. So there's no change overall in the money. just redistributing it. And that is the money that comes from the commission's budget, that $48,000, that there's $10,000 of it that goes to pay for the ankle bracelets, and then $38,000 goes to pay for these guys to go out and do surveillance on the juveniles that are on the program. The next item is a budget adjustment, and it's to set up the Corey Caminos Administrative, Operating, and Capital Grants, the Job Access Commute Grant, the GO Bond for Gila Valley, and the Tourism Grant that we received. These are grants that we don't know of when we start the budgeting process, and we approve our final budget as of July 31st. So we have to do these budget adjustments to the state in the form of a resolution to make those amendments to our budget. Corey Caminos starts, as we spoke, October 1st. It's an October 1st through September 30th grant. The only changes in that budget from previous years when I spoke with Kim, who was going to be here today, but unfortunately she has a stomach bug that's been going around, so she couldn't make it. But the only change from last year's budget really is they've moved some money from administrative down into some capital outlay so that they can acquire some computers that are needed, and then have some match money for the buses they're going for, that they've gotten they've got 2 grants to replace 3 buses that are on this State of Good Repair grants, so it's replacing older vehicles in the fleet. And myself and the chairman, because of his knowledge of the buses, he's had a little bit of experience in buses, we met with Kim and Amy and discussed some things about buses, and the chairman's been looking into some information to give to them on what would be the best going forward for Grant County as we purchase new vehicles, so they would have the best longevity, get the best gas mileage, and be the most user-friendly for not only the mechanics who have to repair them, but also the citizens that have to ride them. So we've been working with them to try and change their habits of currently what they've been purchasing that are costing them high maintenance. There are some drawbacks that we looked at, and it might be something we address in future budgets with them, is they have a hard time hiring CDL drivers because of the amount of money we pay. We pay a very low amount compared to like the school bus drivers that are CDL qualified. So if we could get more CDL drivers, it would allow us to drive a different type of bus that would have more reliable braking system, like the air brakes on it and things like that, so it would have less vehicle maintenance. And so that's something we'll have to work for in the future as we go forward with Corey Caminos developing it. Now that it's back under Grant County's control, adjusting it to where we can be more competitive, so that somebody that drives a school bus, they drive in the morning and they drive in the afternoon, and some drive at the noon hour, but mostly it's the morning and the afternoon, that we can maybe utilize those people in between there. But we're not going to get them if they're going to make $15 an hour driving a school bus and $11 an hour driving our bus. We're not going to get that quality of driver. So that's something we'll have to work on.
Well, with CDLs, you're not only competing with school bus drivers, you're competing with every trucking company and ourselves at the county and everything else, and they're not competitive at this time.
Yeah, so we'll have to look at how we change the way we do business too. And then we can change our equipment more, because right now we couldn't change to an air brake style bus because it's a requirement you have a CDL license to be able to drive that. And we only have, I think, 2 CDL drivers is what they told us out of all of our drivers. So it wouldn't be feasible for us.
Well, not only that, it limits your passengers, because you can only 16, including the driver, is the maximum you can haul. So
those are things we're working on, but they did change. That's really, like I said, the change in their budget was to adjust for being able to buy some capital outlay to upgrade some of their computer systems and things like that. Otherwise, the budget is the same, and the routes will stay the same for this coming forward year. And then the next item is the indigent claims. They've been looked at by Jacob Zamora. There's 701 claims totaling $623,574.39. Of those claims, you can see that 696 of them are on the sole community provider piece, and 5 of them are the out-of-county indigent claims. So, and I believe that's it.
Any questions on the agenda? Any changes? Seeing none, we'll move on to county reports, and we'll start with the sheriff today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Been fairly busy for my staff. Summer's coming to a close, so hopefully things will slow down, but they have really been busy. Right now, we're in the process of hiring a deputy, one that had resigned. So we're going through the process right now to get somebody put on board. I do have a couple that are out on medical leave, so we're a little short-handed, but we're keeping up with the pace. So I want to thank my staff for being able to do that, and we continue to work and operate. In our civil process division, we have a total of 657 papers that we served last month for the month of October. So, our civil process division has been pretty busy also. But other than that, I have nothing else to report. Unless you have any questions, business as usual will continue.
Thanks, Sheriff. Is there any questions for Sheriff? Randy, what do you have today?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be attending the executive board for the Association of Counties next week, along with the Municipal League Executive Board. So that meeting will take place in Santa Fe, and we're going to go over the priorities for both organizations.
Good luck.
That's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Okay. Yes. Okay, so did I.
Did he tell you the same thing?
Probably so. But I'll let you say. So, Mr. Sarr, would you like to say something for Mr. Cedillo?
Sure, I would. I would like to say that the county manager is the greatest person he's ever worked with.
Oh, boy.
I'm paraphrasing that. He didn't say it exactly that way, but... No, Mr. Cedillo asked me just to let everybody know that he's in his office. It's tax season right now, so it's a busy time for him and his staff, and so he wasn't able to attend. And that if anybody out there didn't get their bill yet, because the tax bills have been mailed out, that if you just call his office at 574-0055, then they will gladly help you get that bill and take care of any questions you have. But it's available. It's available online as well if you wish to go online at grantcountynm.com, and you can click on the treasurer's link. You can go ahead and pay your bill online. All of that's loaded in. So.
Okay. And if the treasurer thinks he's busy, you ought to see the clerk's office. We'll save you for later, though. Terry, what do you got?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I really don't have a whole lot to say. I'm just would like to invite all our seniors for Thanksgiving dinner, which will be on November 21st. Other than that, I have nothing unless you have questions.
That's on a Wednesday?
On a Wednesday.
At
So you'll be-
each side?
At each site, yes.
And you'll be closed on Thanksgiving
It will
Day?
be closed on Thursday and Friday. Gila and Miembros will have their dinner on the 15th. They want to change theirs, but Santa Clara and Hurley and Silver City will be on the 21st.
Okay. Anthony? I really don't have anything to report either, Mr. Chairman. Not really. There's no way. I know you got at least two subdivisions that you're talking about doing roads in. I know that you got a third one.
Yeah, we actually did, subdivisions, I went and did like a preliminary survey myself. Happened to be a party chief of the DOT at a previous life, and so I went out there and did some surveys on some of the property corners and how the road would sit, as far as that is concerned. I found some issues with Loma Verde, in that there's a lot of fences that seem to be encroaching on the roadways, especially on the side roads. I would say on the easement. Since we don't have a definitive right-of-way, my recommendation to the county manager was that we had that thing surveyed to make sure that what's on the ground. I found a lot of pins out there where the parcels have been surveyed. They've been some of them have been divided. You have pins right next to each other, 4 or 5 feet apart, those type of things like that. So I'm getting some quotes from some surveyors to try and take care of that. Get us what's out there in the field, where the fences are, where the utilities are now, everything that may be involved with the dedication of a survey or dedication of the roadway, so that we can have everything. I think that'd probably be our best bet, instead of trying to guess, to make sure that we're doing what we need to best. Especially, I think probably the worst places is where the low water crossing is probably going to be, with the drainages. And so I think that's probably in our best interest to get that thing resurveyed and show where everything's at on the ground. And so the other subdivision, that one is a little bit simpler. It didn't seem like there was any really encroachments on what would be considered right-of-way. And the roads were weren't in as bad a shape as I thought they would be. Of course, I didn't see the second phase. I didn't know that I was going to look at the second phase, which would be not Muleshoe. I don't remember what the other. Yes, Muleshoe. And I'll get out there and get that thing done also. But it seemed like pretty simple. It seemed like, to me, it just needed some base
when
course.
you're going, and I'll go with you.
Yeah, the subgrade seemed to be actually pretty well done, and to me it just seems to just needs some base course on it, and it'll be ready for acceptance of those roads. So everything seems to be pretty good. Also, Dory's been working with Mr. Sandoval to try and there's a lot of questions from the residences on how much they're going to have to pay, if there's any interest involved with the payment, how long of duration of time they might be able to pay, for those, they're a little bit more financially strapped than others. So we've been trying to answer those questions. We did a preliminary assessment to show exactly how much people would pay into it. It'd be actually subdivision-wide. The difference in the parcels or the percentages, there's all a formulary. We did another petition. Lonnie did an additional petition that had to be done because of the state statutes, pretty specific on what it needs. And so all of that's currently being done. All that footwork. So Dory's been a big help. She's the one that's previously done those assessment districts, and so she's really on the ball there. So I'd like to thank her. We're right now in the process of doing a brownfield application through the EPA for an assessment study on Fort Baird. There's $350,000 available. We're going to try and access those funds to try and do some feasibility and site assessment and assessment according to how much work would have to be done to make that thing a viable place to utilize it. So hopefully we can get that thing done. It's due by the 19th. We got started last week. There's a lot of work to be done, but I'd like to thank Priscilla, of course, and her staff. They're always on the ball. And they've kind of took Alicia from my office, showed her the ropes on how to do some of the research, and so Alicia's really been dug into this grant application, so I have to thank her too. Of course, we got CDBG coming up. There are some specifics. Alicia actually attended the workshop. I've attended several of them, so I wanted to send her. She did say that the executive director did mention something about audits, of course, and that they're setting the timeline of December 1st. And so we need to probably step up our game. We don't want to have to do like last year and put in so much work and not even be considered. So those things are extremely time consuming, and so we need to make sure that we're at least going to be eligible. We want to make sure. I attended the Infrastructure Finance Conference. I concentrated my efforts on the finance portion of it. We have a lot of plans for our community, and with no money, it seems like. So there was a lot of stress on both public-private partnerships, on being able to combine financial resources through, whether it's through the federal, state, and local community. There was a huge stress on the local community investing in its own future. You look at northern New Mexico, and you look at some of those places up there, they're pretty vibrant communities up there. It's a lot different. I lived up there in the early 90s, and those places have really grown and really done some things. But in talking with their planners and talking with some of those locals up there, they said, you know what, we had to just break down and invest in our own community. That's what it really took. If we were showing to the federal and to the state government that we're investing in our own community, they're a lot more willing to give us some additional funding. And so that's what I'm going to be looking at in the next few months and in the coming years, and hopefully we can do some of the same things.
So, Anthony, what specific communities up north?
Well, you even look at even smaller communities like Espanola. They've really grown. Of course, the casinos and stuff, and the ski valley doesn't hurt. But at the same time, I think that they really changed the way that they do business. They changed the way the community looks in the first place. Taos, of course, has really grown in the past few years, and it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of disappointing to myself as a planner. I go up there and see how much those communities have grown, and come back to Grant County and Silver City and see that we're kind of stagnant in what we've done.
What do you think is the number one reason why we've become stagnant? Anthony, I don't want to put you on the
Personal opinion is infrastructure. I think that we need to put a little bit more money into infrastructure, make our roads better, make our community more appealing, have some places for businesses to go into without, a large amount of startup monies. I think that we can do that. There are some monies available to do that. And so we just need to find them and make ourselves more competitive out there. I think that's the bottom line. But other than that, I do have one more thing I need to mention. We've been doing the work out there on the Gila River. We're still having some issues with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and the Mexico Environment Department. And so we've been working with them as diligently as we can, trying to appease them, trying to do everything that we can to make those guys happy. Doesn't seem to be working out as well as we could. We're going to try and get an interagency meeting together, try and say, okay, this is the bottom line. We've spent a lot of money out there, and it's not doing any good as far as you guys think what we've done is, preparing or for whatever they would like to see. So we want to get a bottom line document, do what we have to do, and then get out and leave it alone. But I'm going to send some photos of the work we've done. Hopefully that'll help out with their decisions and hopefully get them, back to where they're happy again. So I just wanted to mention that to the commission because it's not as, it's getting worse instead of better, let's put it that way.
Well, you did a lot of work out there, and we appreciate that. I'm sure the people out there do too.
Well, and I've always told them, I'm not a hydrological engineer, and I'm not a hydrologist, but we try to do the best for the area. I'm a lifetime resident out there, I'm concerned about what goes on, but I also tell them I have a lot of knowledge about the river, and they don't really
engineer?
They don't seem to care. They sit in their offices in Albuquerque and seem to think that we don't know what we're doing, and so we have to change our minds.
Did you tell me you're the common sense engineer out there?
Yeah.
All right.
And that has worked so well.
We did have an opportunity to meet with Senator Udall's chief of staff. Was it Monday? No, Friday. And we did tell him about our issues, and they seem sympathetic. We'll see if we may start using that to hammer from the other side.
And that's part of this problem is, we went in with the purpose of possible saving lives because we thought we were going to have bad floods from those fires. And we removed dirt from the bottom of the river. And now they're telling us we can't have the dirt go back in the river, so we had to move it. But then every time we came up with a plan to move it further away from the bank so that the dirt that was in the river doesn't go back in the river, they want us now to put the dirt back in the river and put it back how it was.
It's mind-boggling.
I think that
It changes constantly. He's been diligently working with them, but every time we do something, like the latest thing we had to do for him cost us $45,000 to move the dirt that we took out of the bottom because we needed to as our permit. They come back with 15 more things they want us to do, and it's just getting ridiculous. They want us to go above and beyond, and all we've done is the plan that we've already spent engineering on for 2 years to study how to get the river back in its original channel before they put the gabion baskets on the southern side and diverted it to where it started eroding the bank. So we're trying to fix something that was done further upstream that caused this issue. We're trying to repair that, but what happened upstream was okay, but everything we do is bad.
The major factor is that they're claiming that we're in violation of the Clean Waters Act. And the Corps of Engineers has maintained up to this point that we weren't in any violation. And as long as we remediate the sediment that we took out of the channel. And that's what we've done. It just finished last week, or maybe just even yesterday. I saw that they still doing a little bit of work out there. I'm going to send them some photos. We're going to have an interagency meeting, and then hopefully we can come up to some conclusions of that meeting and be done with this.
Let's make sure that Melanie is invited to that meeting.
Yeah. That's all I got, Mr. Chairman. That's all I got.
Anthony.
I know you have staff in the room, and I know Commissioner Miller had a question for Gilbert.
Gilbert was going to address some concerns by residents over maintenance of individuals' property.
Yes, good morning, Chairman and Commission. I've been asked by Commissioner Miller to come and address some property maintenance issues that's come up here recently. I received a complaint the other day about a resident of the county who possibly had some livestock on the property, and the neighbors didn't really like it. It was in the Indian Hills area. And I'd just like to briefly just go over the actions that I took and what we can and cannot do. What I did is I went out there and took a look at the property, and I didn't see no livestock out there at this point in time. However, if I had found it, we wouldn't have been able to do anything anyway, because, well, Grand County has not adopted any zoning ordinances, so, livestock's allowed in the county. The other issues were junk vehicles and that kind of stuff, and there was one vehicle that was possibly had been sitting there for some time, but again, the county has no property maintenance ordinance. We've attempted to introduce a property maintenance ordinance in the past, and it didn't go positive for that effort. Currently, what I use for those kinds of issues is the solid waste ordinance and the litter ordinance. Those together, I can pretty much address most of the issues that come across my desk. Another option that people have in an area like that is if there's a homeowners association, they can enforce private covenants. And usually the covenants are pertain to that particular area. And so they can enforce those, and then plus they can also have other rules that pertain to their neighborhoods. So that's what I'd explain to the individuals, is that's probably the best way to go, simply because we don't have a property maintenance ordinance and all the other things that I just mentioned. In the past, also, I've taken some property maintenance issues to magistrate court, and I've prosecuted those issues there, and it went in favor for the county. However, if the ruling is appealed at district court, then I can no longer pursue it in district court, and it takes an attorney. And thus far, it hasn't happened for the county. Since I've been here, maybe in the past, but prior to me it has, but it hasn't to this point. So what happens then is that nothing gets done. So And there's been several cases where individuals have been ordered by magistrate court to do certain things, and they appeal to district court, and it's no secret that they can do that, and then usually, probably, they don't have to do anything. So, anyway, that's where it sits right now, Commissioner Miller, and if there's any questions, I'd like to...
And that's why I wanted Gilbert to speak on the issue so that residents know what we can do, what we can't do. I know it's frustrating to have property right next to yours that needs to have some major work done on it, but our hands are tied in certain aspects.
If I may throw this in, I also think that when individuals say, well, back where I came from, I get that a lot. I usually ask them, well, did you come from an incorporated area in the United States or an unincorporated area? And most of the time, I'd say the majority of the time, they come from an incorporated area where there are zoning rules and regulations. Well, they've come to an unincorporated area where we don't have that, and that's the biggest difference there, and they don't realize that until I bring it up to them, so then they fully understand.
Bring up too is that sometimes these people can be in violation of environmental regulations in the state, and that's outside of Gilbert. They need to go to the State Environment Department, and Gilbert works closely with them when he finds an issue like that to try and get it cleaned up. And he works closely with residents. He'll go out and ask, and sometimes he gets compliance just by going out and talking to the residents. They'll go and clean up. We had an issue in Arenas Valley. There was a packing plant that had a lot of pelts stacked up on pallets, and Gilbert went and worked with them. They didn't have to do anything, but Gilbert talked with them, and they complied, and Gilbert coordinated to get with the solid waste to get a roll-off dumpster there. And I think he took 2 40-yard dumpsters full of pelts, animal pelts, out of this property. Yeah. But it was all done by just Gilbert going out and talking with the owner, and they complied. They understand. So sometimes that works, and that's why Gilbert goes out and he'll just talk with the people, and sometimes they'll comply. But once they start to say, forget it, Gilbert's hands gets tied. Like I said, unless it's an environmental issue, and then they can go to the Environment Department if it's illegal dumping on their property or things like that.
That's a good point. The Environment Department has been very instrumental in some of these issues, especially the septic issues. In fact, I worked 2 or 3 of them this past week, last week, and so anyway, those kinds of issues, I refer them to the Environment Department, or they and I go out there and look at the situation. We determine the best course of action. So that's correct, John. Thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you, Gilbert. Thanks, Gilbert.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
The livestock issue too is that if you look at some of these other subdivisions within the covenants, people read the covenants, and a lot of times it does say whether livestock or not can be so. And as far as vehicles, sometimes it's just, we're in rural New Mexico, and it's a symbol. What was that one time? So.
Well, and just to clarify your point, when you say it's in the covenants for livestock, that does also mean it's still a civil issue between them and their neighbors. It is not an ordinance of the county. Right. So, moving on, Earl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I don't really have anything to report. We're just back to road maintenance right now.
I'm sorry. So can you kind of cover that road that we visited and the amounts?
I can't remember the name of the road. Do you remember it?
Camino, Arenas Valley, right next to Twin Sister.
Right there where your bus turnaround is, Brett?
Yeah, your bus turnaround right there.
Camino Verde.
Camino Verde, that's it.
But we went and looked at, Commissioner Ramos and I went and looked at it, and I got an estimate of about a little over $60,000 to do that road.
Bring it up to county standards also?
Right.
Yeah, they're very interested in the assessment district there also.
Great.
And, but that one is really bad. They're at the point to where garbage trucks don't want to go down their way either. They've canceled a lot of customers on that road. And it is a pretty bad road. I've been there when it's rained, and that is a bad place.
Drainage is an issue, that's pretty flat, isn't it?
Yeah, right. About, I don't know, maybe a half a mile in or something like that, quite a half a mile, quarter of a mile in. There's a big drainage issue there, but I think it could be solved with the low water crossing down there. The rest of it wasn't too bad.
And Earl's also been working on the Duck Creek Road. I think you said some signs have been put up, Earl?
Yeah, we put the signs, I guess, requested for at the Duck Creek crossing. About not to cross when it's flooded.
Is it, does Rodeo Road turn into Duck Creek Road? Is
Yeah,
that crossing?
No, it's over, we've already got that one, but it's in Buckhorn.
On the third, because that same powder is right there at the end of Rodeo Road too.
Oh, it's just something else.
It's pretty hot and dry right now. It's not hot and dry, but I mean, it's dry. It's dry. Yeah, these blade operators are really out there wasting their time right now.
And we got a 50% chance of getting drier.
Yep.
There's also a 50% chance of getting wetter. And I got an email from those residents, and they recognize that Earl's been out there working on it, but they were upset that we put a blade on because that just makes their dust worse, they said. So, I mean, sometimes you can't win for...
And like I've told those residents, if I have one resident that calls me on that, I've got to go out and do something about it because somebody has an accident and I knew about it. I mean,
I understand completely.
Yeah.
I'm just saying and we're working on trying to find, I mean, we were looking at with what we're trying to do out at the fairgrounds to maybe get some material to put on there. And that's basically what it is. It's just the road is a very clay, powdery road.
It's just a silt, it's not even big clay.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to commend Earl for, always making himself available.
Whether it's for me or any other commissioner or the public, so we really do appreciate that, taking time out of your busy schedule to come out and work with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I got nothing.
Rod is a busy guy, so he gets to go first. Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. Voting today, the big one, it's here. We have all of our voting centers open. They're all ready to go. We had a line outside of each one of them this morning. Voters are being processed through at about four minutes per voter, so it's not taking very long at all. Our rural areas as well, they're up and going. I wanted to thank Public Works Director Justin Reese and his crew. They delivered machines for us to those rural precincts yesterday. Myself and a couple of other machine technicians delivered all the voting centers and set them up yesterday. Started off real early this morning at 5 o'clock at the Women's Club, setting that location up. They had a big dinner yesterday there for a volunteer group. So we weren't able to set up there, so we were up early this morning setting up the Women's Club. Polls are open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Please get out there and vote. It's a very important election, especially with what's going on the East Coast, where there's going to be some people probably not going to cast their votes. It's important that the rest of us pick up for those that aren't able to cast their ballot for whatever reason.
Now, Robert, what happens if they aren't able to cast their ballot? Are they given another opportunity to vote?
That's it. From what I was reading, it takes an act of Congress to extend any voting hours or to change the date because it's been set. That isn't going to happen.
Final count on early voting?
Early voting, we processed over 7,500 ballots for early and absentee. So we're sitting at 37 voter percent turnout already as of this morning. So the last presidential election, we were around 47% is what I looked up in the last one. So we're either going to have 10% voter turnout today, or we're going to break records. We could hit over that 50% mark, which would be really, really nice. Would show Grant County really cares and wants to get out and voice their opinion with their vote.
Well, I drove by the Women's Club and it was packed.
It is packed. It's a centrally located one. I think everybody kind of moves to that. And I think the construction, the way it is over at the conference center, has kind of been a little bit of a blessing in disguise because of the parking situation. It takes voters longer to get to there, so the lines aren't as long there. It's been really nice. There isn't any waiting at the conference center whatsoever. Voters are able to drive into that gate. The handicap stations are still open for them to park there, and they have a shorter distance to get to the doorway there.
Is Jose Barrios still?
No, Jose Barrios, we've
Okay, because I came by this morning and there was about 3 people in the parking lot saying, vote here.
No, those individuals that were there to let you know, just in case you showed up there.
Oh, okay.
They were no longer voting there.
Because I thought I saw another sign that said vote here.
Would you tell us again where the centers are?
The centers are located at the Tyrone Community Center, the Women's Club, the Business and Conference Center next to ACE, the National Guard Armory, the Baird Community Center, and the Hurley Community Center. All of those places you can go vote at, any one of them. Please, the reason we did it is, I don't want for, a lot of times, and we see it here because we work for Grant County, for instance, we have a lot of issues with it, with our tourism portion of it, is we have to say, nobody knows about Grant County, it's always about Silver City. But I would like for the residents to get out and explore the rest of the county. Just because you live in Silver City doesn't mean that you can't go over to Baird, vote, have a nice lunch at one of the establishments there, see what's out there. Same thing for the residents of Hurley, come on in, do business here, come and view Grant County. It's not a Silver City thing or a Baird thing. Get out and explore your county. It's a beautiful county. There's a lot to see. Don't think that you have to just go to the Silver City places. Head out to Tyrone. There's pretty landscape out there. You can look at that stuff out there. Don't think that you can go to just any of these places next to where you live. Get out and see the county a little bit. We have a beautiful county.
I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Joseph, I didn't mean to leave you out. Do you have something to add to your earlier comments? You weren't sitting over here at the desk, so.
Actually, he couldn't see you out there.
Blend in with the chair.
Looking at early December, we're going to go through our 11-month walk through the facility with the architects and the contractor. The substantial completion was signed in January. There's a few issues we're taking care of. That walkthrough will assure that everything's taken care of once the warranty period is expired. We hired 3 new officers. We're doing training this week and next with the officers. The medical portion, we did not find any language within the contracts of the other detention centers and other counties, so we are going to go out for RFP. I've gone with the procurement officer. He's looking at what I submitted to him, and we'll do that as soon as possible. The Silver City Police Department actually put in a computer in our booking area, and it's going to be available to all the other agencies. The Lieutenant of Operations, Lieutenant Newby, is currently getting with each agency, seeing what kind of paperwork they need put on that computer. It'll kind of cut down on their time they could work on the reports at the facility. That computer will help a lot to the other agencies. Currently, our administrative Lieutenant Gilbert Garcia and myself and Lieutenant Newby are working on the policies and post orders for the facility with the Association of Counties, and we're starting to look at where we're at, where we want to be, and our goals. And with that, we're continuing to work. I'd like to read the mission statement of the Grant County Detention Center. The Grant County Detention Center's mission is to operate in a manner that prevents harm to staff, contractors, volunteers, inmates, and the community. This will be accomplished by operating a safe, secure detention center in a professional manner to inmates under the Grant County Detention Center's authority. The Grant County Detention Center is an ethically diverse correctional organization that sets the standard for excellence to the public safety of the community. This will be accomplished through sound correctional practices, offender programs, and health care, as well as community partnerships. Thank you.
Okay, John.
I just got
Just one thing to say, right?
That's right, he said one
I'm
more
going to add
thing.
them all together so it's one.
This won't take a while.
Just wanted to say that we've got, this is our only meeting. Thursday will be our last meeting for November unless we need a special meeting in November. I checked with Rob. I don't know if you're going to be ready to canvass. Your staff said they would talk with you. They weren't sure. They said they might be able to on the 8th for the commission meeting. So we'll look at that to where we don't have to call a special meeting if Rob's ready. If he's not, then we'll have to call a special meeting for canvassing of the election. Well, I guess not for canvassing, for approving of the canvass. What we've done is we've Randy's put together a letter that we run through Rob, that it's allowing the commission, giving permission to the clerk's office to canvass it and bring that canvas to you for certification of the canvas, because you actually don't go and canvass that election. They're doing that. They have 3 people that'll do that in there, that they've got lined out to do it. So we just gave them a letter for their records to show that they can do that and then bring you the certification like they usually do. So if, like I said, if it's there for the 8th, we'll have it, so we might add it to the agenda, and then if we have to, we can pull it off and call a special meeting. Rob will let me know. And then on the week after Thanksgiving, again, we're going to the training for the newly elected commissioner, which we'll find out who that is today. So it will be myself, the chairman, the newly elected commissioner, and the county attorney. Will go up for a training in Albuquerque on basically what the commissioner's job is, the better informed public official. It's a good training. And so they'll have that coming out. Will be the week after Thanksgiving.
Chairman, real quick, now that he mentioned about the commissioner, results will be available at our website, www.grandcountynm.com. There'll be a little link there. Those results, for sure, 7,000 of the results, or 7,000 ballots that we have in our office ready to go, those will be the first results posted. Those should be up no later than 7:30. So we'll have it'll tell you a lot about the election by 7:30, and then of course we'll just wait for the 2 big voting centers to come in, which are the Women's Club or the 3 big ones, the Women's Club, the Conference Center, and the Bear Community Center. Once those come in, we can pretty much almost call the race. So about 8 p.m. we'll be able to have all races called by then.
And I just want to say, it's on the news this morning, there's a small community back east that has 10 voters, and all of them voted at 12:01, and the presidential election was tied at 5 and 5. That's what they showed on the news. So the first polls coming in at 12, it was like 12:05. I think it took them 4 minutes for all of them to vote. Was tied at 5 and 5 for the presidential election. So that's it.
Okay. Now, I think you got one more thing to say.
What do I got?
Okay, fine.
What do I got?
Commissioner Elliott?
Just one question.
About that.
John, did you talk to Mr. Gorman about... Did you talk to Mr. Gorman about what needs to be done if, in fact, the liquor sales...
He hasn't gotten back to me on that.
Because I have that question.
Yeah, the requirement, we know the requirement is they're going to have to go to the state and ask for an amendment to their liquor license, because their current liquor license doesn't provide for that. So that's at the state level. But he hasn't gotten back to me on when it will take effect. And so I'll try and find that out from him for Thursday's meeting if we can.
Okay, that's all I have.
Commissioner, all right. Well, first of all, I'd like to go ahead and kind of explain why we're going to Jose Barrios. There's been a Veterans Day protest there by one individual and his spouse, I believe. I really don't know the names, but I think it's horrible. So, they even went to the school board and asked not to have the Veterans Day stuff that they have there every year. And we got a call from the Vietnam vets. We got some emails from them stating what was going on. So we are going to support. I mean, I can't believe anybody would go against some kind of ordeal as important as honoring our veterans. But then again, if it wouldn't have been for these veterans, they wouldn't have the rights to do what they're doing, I guess. So, I really am glad that we've decided as a group to attend Jose Barrios and support our local veterans and veterans throughout the United States, of course.
And encourage the public to go as well.
That's right. If Jose Barrios wants to release the names of these people, I think it's up to them. But as far as I know, I really don't know what the names are. I also wanted to see if we can go through the walkthrough at the jail whenever you do go through your inspection, because I saw what happened at the hospital after the warranty was over, and I don't want that to happen at our jail.
I also wanted to see if you can go ahead and talk to Justin to see where we're at with our batting cage engineering over at the Baton Park, and also the drainage problem we have at the bottom field. I know he's not here today, or else I'd be asking him, but please get back with me and let me know where we're at. And last but not least, the most important portion is our audit is in. It was sent since last Thursday. Our apology to the county, and in my behalf anyways, I really would like to apologize that we do not have it, but we did push it very hard so that we can get it in and we can apply for different monies, so Anthony wouldn't have all these problems that he's got on his hands right now, especially when it comes to canceling of monies that we've already been awarded or what have you. So our audit is in, and that makes me pretty happy.
I think it makes all of us happy.
And finally, it's in there. We've also been promised that the 2011 audit would be in, I believe, by December 15th, was it?
Well, they'll be in, they're not going to be in this week, they'll be in next week. They've already done a bunch of the field work, so they'll tell us when they come in next week what they think will be left to get that done. It shouldn't be that long, so it should be in hopefully the beginning of December. And then the 12, they said no later than the 31st of December for everything. I'll now speak with them on this first issue, and I'm also going to talk to DFA. These are requirements that DFA has put that aren't in the CDBG guidelines or anything. It's something the new administration's doing of DFA. One individual, I guess I shouldn't say the new administration, one individual, Mr. Gleason, has taken it upon himself to be the savior of the country. And so I will speak to him and let him know where our situation is, that we're working to do that. It was out of our hands, and see if we can't apply for those funds, because our audits will be there by the time they do award it, because they don't award. I don't even think they've done the awards from last year yet.
The applications, as far as I know, they haven't allocated the money that already made the awards, but the applications aren't even due until February 15th.
Well, I know Senator Morales was going to help us push our audit through as soon as they got it there. So,
and that's the thing is they're making this requirement, but you don't apply for the money until February 15th, and our audit will be in by December 31st, so we'll be current on everything by February 15th when we need to apply. But he's coming back and saying we're not even going to consider you if you didn't do this back in December, which the monies that were given from last year, they haven't even given out the contracts and given those monies that were awarded back in March of this year.
So is that set in stone, John, or is it?
It's his own decision. It's not statute, it's not anything. It's Mr. Gleason himself just coming out and saying, this is a requirement I'm putting.
I have spoke with the senator, and he was going to call the state auditor's office and let him know it was in the mail.
Yeah. Great. But how he's pushing and how he's helping us out a lot, Senator Morales, Representative Martinez, they've been helping us a lot.
We need to make sure this doesn't happen in the future.
Most definitely. Let's not order any new programs or anything for the county, okay? So make sure that's blocked.
Anything else? Yes.
Just kind of away from everything that we've been talking about. And he's really good about praising his staff and the work they do. I would just like to thank Violet and Jennifer in there. We put an additional burden with these subdivisions that we're going through, with all the right-of-way issues that we've got. I know that we're putting some additional work on their plates over there. It's amazing since we've been in there the 6 months, the amount of people that go in there daily, and I just want to thank them personally because they've been a great asset to the planning department, and it's working out really, really well.
Thank you.
And that's what I was waiting for.
I think they do a great job for not only us as the staff of the departments in the county, but definitely for the public service they give. I want to thank them too, but I thank Anthony. But by us putting that all together, I think it's, there's a lot of work to be done, but I think we're off to a good start.
Okay. Anything else? All right, I just want you to know that it's time to go vote. Everybody go vote, and I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.